Hello, welcome to week 3. If you're watching this video, that means that you are going to be or you were absent for either one or all of our days together for English 10, which would be A days. I want to first apologize. I did not get any videos up last week because last week was just crazy. I'm also teaching English 11 and Avid, and I'm coaching volleyball. And so last week, just coming off of the first week of school, was really crazy. So I'm going to be a lot better from now on. So I have everything ready to go for this week. I'm pretty excited. We're going to do some fun stuff. So if you have questions, please let me know. Let me go to Canvas. So this is what we have for Canvas right now. As I will need to, if I need to add anything later, I will. But for this week, there's not any links to look at. It's just the Google Slides. And these, again, are worth 10 points. As long as you follow along throughout the week, you should be able to submit them by the end of the week, no problem. The other thing that I did in Canvas that's new is in the resource area, I updated the Libby audiobook extra credit thing, and I actually made it an assignment. So when you are ready to pursue that for extra credit, there's ways that you can show proof of that. So then you can just turn it in there. So I have a list of what to do and then what to submit for the 10 points if you just start a book and 15 if you actually finish it. So that's all on Canvas. But anyway, let's go back to the slides. So this week is going to be really cool. We are starting argumentative writing. We're going to bulk up our skills a lot in this area. In the past, it was something that I really did not enjoy as a student, and I kind of thought as a teacher that I wouldn't enjoy either, but it turns out it's actually quite interesting and really fun when you get down to what we're going to talk about. So the other thing we're going to be doing is going to the library. So if you are gone on Tuesday, the 21st, we are going up to the library to choose an independent choice reading book. So if you're gone that day, you're going to want to find a time to go up and grab a book, and you can ask me more about that individually. So we're doing book talk and library tour with Miss Bazzizo, choosing our independent reading book. We're going to do an elevator speech activity. We have lots of notes to take since we're diving into this unit for the first time, and then we'll have some time for independent reading and first chapter Friday. Although for you this week, because of the rolling block schedule, it will be first chapter Thursday. So if you're watching this, you can't really participate in this right now, but Miss Bazzizo is going to come and give us a couple book talks, and then we're going to go up to the library and she's going to give us a tour, and I'm going to give you 15, maybe 20 minutes to just look around, and you're going to pick a book that you want to read. I'm not giving you any sort of guidance. It can be fictional, it can be non-fictional. It's whatever interests you, you get to pick, and we'll be working with this book with several things as we go throughout the semester. And another thing to remember, please, just as I'm asking you to bring your Chromebook or computer every day, you need to bring your choice book with you every day, because we will be having time here and then to read in class. I don't know that it'll be every class period that we have, but I'm definitely going to make time for us. So if you come to class with no book, it's going to be kind of rough. So please, please, please bring your choice book every single day. Okay, so this is an activity that you can still do, but you just won't be able to do all of it if you are absent on this day. So what we're doing is we are going to write an elevator pitch speech, meaning it's a speech that you can give in about 60 seconds. You are going to spend about 5 minutes writing your elevator speech, which at least I need at least one big paragraph, and you're going to try to convince your audience of one of the following prompts. So you don't need to write all of them, just one, and you get to pick which one. So a couple examples are blank is the best blank team because blank. So I could say the Lakers are the best NBA team because blank. Whatever, fill in the blanks for you. Homework and testing are not necessary because blank. This character would be this character in a fight because blank. I had a really great, this inspired me from one of the Get to Know Me Google Forms. Kylo Ren or Obi-Wan would beat Kylo Ren in a fight because blank. So any character that you can think of, superhero type thing. Blank is the greatest band singer of all time because blank. Taylor Swift is the greatest singer of all time because blank. Whatever it is, you get to fill in those blanks. You get to pick which one you do. If for some reason none of these are appealing to you and you thought of one that would be really great, you can totally use that. These are just kind of a jumping off point, as long as it is something that can be argued, something that people would have more than one opinion on. So take 5 minutes. You're going to write it on this slide, at least one big paragraph more if you can. But you're going to write a speech trying to convince your audience of why this is this or this is better than this, whatever you pick. So go ahead, pause this video and write your speech. Okay, so if you were in class on Tuesday, what we would do is we're going to pair up with as many different people as we can for 5 minutes. You're going to give your speech and take turns giving your speech. And after you've given your speech, you're going to ask your partner to rate how convincing your argument was. So you're basically just going to read straight from your paper, and then they're going to say on a scale of 1 to 5 how convincing they think your argument was. So 1 would be, my opinion and view hasn't changed at all. 3 would be, I still don't agree, but you made good points. And number 5 is, wow, you've convinced me 100% of your point of view. And then, 2 and 4 you can use as whatever you think that would be, somewhere in the middle of those things. So we would do that in class for about 5 minutes. And then after doing that activity, looking at the scores that you were given and trying to ask yourself, why do you think that you were given the scores that you were? So if you got a lot of 1s and hardly any 5s, why do you think that people thought your argument wasn't convincing, or vice versa? So the point of this activity is for us to try to figure out, is our argument convincing? I know it's just a very imperfect, quick elevator speech. It takes 5 minutes to write. It's 1 paragraph. There's a lot more that we could do. But just in general, when you're just trying something out, how convincing are you? So why, after doing all this and thinking about ways to argue or prove your point, why does argumentative writing matter? This is a quote on the left from Mark Twain. He says, "The man who does not read has no advantage over the man who cannot read." So that's a really powerful quote, and I think it applies to the skills that we're going to learn in this unit. So we are going to learn that the ability to identify others' reasoning and explain their logic is super important when you're kind of analyzing arguments and evidence. The ability to reason through the writing and explain your own logic is super important. Trying to see past the tricks of marketing and advertising. We're going to do kind of a whole mini deep dive into marketing and advertising because they use a lot of argumentative writing tactics and techniques in that. And that is something we are overwhelmed with every single day, especially in a capitalistic society. And then to empower your own voice and point of view, because I really do believe that every single one of you has something to say. You have something that you want to share with the world. And this unit is going to help us by trying to clarify and sharpen that message. It's one thing to communicate something, and it's another to communicate it really well so that when you're sharing that message, it actually goes deep into the minds and the hearts of the people that you're sharing it with. So before we get into the notes, we're going to kind of do some front loading. We're going to look at the terms that we'll be looking at this unit, and I want you to tell me what you know right now. And again, if you don't know something, if you don't know what a term means, just tell me, I don't know. Or give me your best shot. I don't know, but I think this means blank. Because again, I don't care what Google knows. I want to know what you know, just to see where we're at in the beginning. So there's 2 slides to this. You're going to tell me what you know about bias, conclusion, argument, syllogism, elaboration, evidence. You're going to write it in the little square. Statement, claim, persuasion, and counterclaim. So do your best, pause this video and answer or try to define what these things are to the best of your ability based off of what you know. Okay, so we're going to start diving into some notes. You will find that on your copy of the slides, some of these things are going to have empty boxes, then it is going to be your job to fill in the blank based off of what you see in my slides. So I have like a master copy of the Google Slides with all the answers on it, like an answer key. And your job is to follow along, pay attention to the notes, and make sure that you write down what is blank. Fill in the blank for your slides, because that is how you will participate and receive credit for this week of Google Slides. So anyway, argumentative writing. An argument, if I were to give you the most simple definition, is a group of statements that leads to a conclusion. That's as simple as we can make it. So an argument is a group of statements, not just one statement. Sometimes people can get that confused. So it is not the same thing as a thesis. A thesis is totally different. An argument, this is a visual, is a bunch of statements. Those statements can be claims, counterclaims, evidence, elaboration, sources, another claim. Anything that's circled is a statement. Within all of that together, when you group it all together, it's an argument, and it's supposed to lead to a conclusion or something that you are trying to persuade your audience of. So here is something else that we need to clarify. Argument versus persuasion, they are different things, but they work together. You will find that a lot in language arts. You heard me say that last week with point of view and perspective. They are different things in and of themselves, but they work together. So an argument, think of this metaphor or analogy, is cold. It is made up of passionless sentences that lead us to a passionless conclusion. Whereas persuasion is hot. It consists of tricks that we use to make others care about that cold argument. So you have to have an argument first. Otherwise, you can't use persuasion. You have to have the argument. You have to have the statements, the claims, and then using the things that we're going to learn about later, like evidence, you can use that to make other people care about that argument. So, argument versus persuasion, kind of an example in the real world. The argument creates the product, but the persuasion and the rhetoric sell the product. So this is a screenshot I took last year when I taught this unit to my English 10 students. This is The Rock, Dwayne The Rock Johnson's Instagram. He is selling these headphones for working out. So it would be one thing for him to say, these they're not AirPods, but these earbuds work. You should buy them. That is kind of a cold argument. He's just stating facts. If they are true, he's just stating an argument. But if he were to say what he does in this post, best in quality, sound, durability, and I made sure these babies were waterproof, engineered for the hardest workers in the gym. And he's got all these emojis and a picture of him sweating using the product. That is him using persuasion. He's trying to convince you that not only do these work, but that you should buy them. Okay, break time, pause for 5 minutes, keep going. So something that we're going to learn, we're not going to dive too deep into it because it can get kind of complex. We're going to look at a syllogism, and what the heck does that mean? It sounds really fancy. A syllogism is basically statements that force us to accept a conclusion. So this is a trick that sometimes people will use, and you can find them in different argumentative writing texts and speeches. But they're kind of the building blocks of arguments. Some of the most basic things we can find if you kind of boil everything down to the essentials. So here's an example, a very classic example. All men are mortal. Socrates is a man. Therefore, Socrates is mortal. So within these 3 lines, we have a syllogism. They are statements that force us to accept a conclusion. All men are mortal. I'll give you a more relevant example. All men are mortal. Tom Holland is a man. Therefore, Tom Holland is mortal. So this is kind of the template for the syllogism. All people or things in a category are blank. This particular person thing is in that category. Therefore, this person or thing is a blank. So it kind of works in this rhythm, in this pattern. So there's lots of different types of syllogisms, but these are the 3 most popular templates, I would say, that people use in arguments. So we just went over this one, either A or B, not A, therefore B. If A, then B, A, therefore B. So what you're going to do on the next two slides is try to color code highlight these example syllogisms that I'm going to give you to try to identify the parts in the pattern. So here's an example. You either wear your seatbelt or you don't ride in my car. You won't wear your seatbelt, then you won't be riding in my car. So this is a syllogism. You're going to look at, this is the template that they used. You're going to highlight what is A and what is B in each line. So go ahead and pause this video and do that. Example number 2, same thing. It's a different example, but you're going to highlight. This is the template that they're using. Either A or B, not A, therefore B. Either the Ducks or the Beavers will win the game. The Beavers lost, that means the Ducks won the game. So you're going to highlight according to the pattern here. So that should have been day 1, which would have been Tuesday the 21st this week with our rolling block schedule. So we talked about a lot of things, took a lot of notes, and we're going to take some more notes this day. But we're going to go beyond just the 3-line syllogisms. I told you we weren't going to dive too deep into that because it can kind of get complex and boring really quickly. So syllogisms, they help us determine an argument's validity. Just does this make sense logically? But now we're going to look at evidence because evidence helps us determine if an argument is actually credible. You really need to have both of those things, validity and credibility, to make an argument sound. But we're going to take a look at just evidence and credibility today. So with that being said, what exactly is evidence? Evidence is a statement a statement without evidence is called an assertion. Evidence is just simply put support. So what it does for your argument, it backs up your argument, strengthens it, and makes it airtight. If you want to convince somebody of something, you need to have evidence to support what you're saying. Otherwise, it's just an assertion and it really can't stand on its own. It's kind of like a 2-legged stool. It needs at least one more leg or two to stand steadily. So what does it look like? There are 5 different types of evidence that we see in argumentative writing. Facts, numbers, quotes, examples, and analogies. So we're going to look at each one, define what it is, and give you some examples to go off of. So this right here, for each one of these forms of evidence, there's going to be something right below, which is the definition, and it is your job to write that in your slides, to take some notes. So we're going to start with facts. Facts are just actual, verifiable, and indisputable things. These are things that are true and tested throughout time. They're things that maybe scientifically or mathematically cannot be proven false otherwise, just after thousands of years. So some examples are all men are mortal, humans need water to survive, electrons have a negative charge, the sun sets in the west. These are just things that over the course of time have been proven to be actual, verifiable, and indisputable. Nothing has changed that these things are true over time. So make sure you write down the definition in your copy of the slides. Second, we have numbers. And numbers are statistics, surveys, or any type of measurement. So basically, if you see a number, it's going to fall in this category of evidence, any number at all. So an example would be Salem's population reached 173,442,000 in 2018. 5 to 10% of people globally have dyslexia. Stranger Things season 3 had 64 million views on Netflix. So all of these have some form of statistics, surveys, or any type of number, and that falls in the number category. And I will say with numbers, if you haven't had a statistics math class yet, something that your teacher should tell you is that statistics are really tricky because they can be skewed. You can word them in a way that kind of highlights or points to something that either isn't true or is just not as important as it really is. And we can see this a lot with argumentative writing. So this is really important to make sure that we're looking at the numbers that they give us to see if they're actually accurate, because numbers can be skewed, and that skews the argument in and of itself. Thirdly, we have quotes. Quotes are an exact repetition of words, the exact words of an expert. So there are two things we need to pay attention to here. You need to have some sort of citing, like an example would be on page 32, Trevor Noah said, just because it's not happening to you doesn't mean it's not happening. This is a direct repetition of words from somebody that said something, and we have a source to prove, or we're citing the source to prove it on page 32. There are no secrets about the world of nature. There are secrets about the thoughts and intentions of men. J. Robert Oppenheimer, author of The Open Mind. So another thing to pay attention to is the author of the argumentative text that you're looking at, not only are they repeating the exact words of a person, but is that person that they're sharing the words from an expert in what they're talking about? Because if they just share somebody who's just kind of off the street, even if it's a direct quote, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's good evidence because it's not from an expert. So it depends on who is actually saying the quote. Another form of evidence is examples. These are based on observations. They could be anecdotes, which basically just means a story, items in a text, or experiment results. So examples could be, we dropped 2 Mentos in the 2-liter bottle of Coke and foam went everywhere. That is an example because it's results from an experiment. Michael told the story of his time in prison. He said, that is an anecdote. It's a story. We know she is bad-tempered because one time in chapter 2, she threw her dinner plate and blah, 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 blah. That is an item that you are referring to in a text. So examples can look different. There's kind of 3 different forms of an example. And these can be really helpful in supporting your argument. And then we have analogies. Analogies are simply comparisons. They show how items are related or if they're similar. So a lot of times with analogies, we will see metaphors or similes being used in terms of figurative language that might be used in an argument, because sometimes our brains work really well with metaphors and similes. So an example or 2 examples might be, artificial intelligence today is like the atomic bomb in 1945, groundbreaking and very important. Or the TV show New Girl is like the modern version of Friends because, so you're comparing one thing to another. Okay, so what we're going to do next, after going through the different forms of evidence, you are going to sort through some more examples that I have come up with. This is a table that you can edit. We have one section for each form of evidence. If you look at the next 2 slides, you will find the examples. You don't need to write everything out from scratch. You can just literally copy and paste, but you're going to go through each example and determine what type of evidence it is based off of the notes we just took. So I'll read you the examples and then you're going to pause this video and do the evidence sort. So number 1, what is war like? My grandfather was in the South Pacific during World War II and tells this story. Example 2, breathing exhaust fumes while stuck in a traffic jam is like breathing in secondhand smoke. Number 3, humans need water to survive. 4, Burt Macklin said there's only one man for the job. Number 5, the average salesperson made $1,000 last month. And then our second round of examples. So there should be 2 examples in every category that you have. There are 50 states in the United States of America. The sun rises in the east. LeBron James is like the new Michael Jordan. At the end of chapter 1, the Mandalorian finds the child. In chapter 2, the Mandalorian leaves with the child, and lastly, Nick Miller said it's perfectly fine to watch TV all day. So you should have all of your evidence after pausing this video sorted, and you should have them into 2 in each category. What we're doing after this is some independent reading time. So you're going to take the book that you chose from the library and spend about 15, maybe 20 minutes reading. And then the last thing for this week is First Chapter Friday, or for your A-day schedule, it'll be first chapter Thursday. So this week we have A Long Way Down by Jason Reynolds. I have two versions of this book, the original version on the right and then the newer version. The newer version is a graphic novel version that just came out last year. And then the original version is actually a verse novel, which means that it was written in poetic form. So every chapter is a poem, and together the poem creates a novel, a story, and it's really cool. So if you look at this, click on this link, it'll take you to a video that shows you images from the graphic novel as Jason Reynolds, the author, kind of reads through the first few chapters because, again, the chapters are just poetry, so they go really quick. The premise of the story is that I believe the main character, I'm forgetting, but I believe the main character's name is Sean. He lives in this almost dystopian type society where there are rules that you have to follow. So if somebody wrongs you, you have to get payback. If somebody does something like kill somebody that you love, you are like required to kill somebody that they love or get revenge in some murderous type of way. So there's rules in this society, and another one is no snitching. Do not snitch on anybody. And so Sean's older brother is murdered, and it's up to Sean to obviously get revenge. That's the society they live in. So he lives in an apartment in a building up on a higher floor. He gets in the elevator and is planning to go take his revenge. And as he goes down the elevator and it makes a couple stops because of people getting on and off, he starts to meet a few characters that he did not expect. And he has conversations and hears things and sees things that he was not anticipating. And it totally changes his um, life as he's making his way down the elevator to get to the ground level of his building. So if you would like to check out a copy, I have obviously one copy of each in my classroom, but we also have some in the library as well. So that's all I have for week 3. If you have any questions, please let me know. Other than that, I'll see you soon.